And we're back again. Let's go. Let's go. Don't miss a beat. Yeah, we usually do three episodes in one stream, so we'll make this will be the third and final part of this this stream. Everything's working well. We still haven't teleported anyone through to the second planetoid yet. Yeah, we keep going. I just need to do the cut on YouTube. If I can do a nice cut, I'll do a nice cut. It's always better. Although then I do need to go and fish it out the VOD, which is a pain. But there you go. That's for future me to worry about. So yeah, we'll go to the teleport receiver. I think, I don't know. I need to find the artifact. This is important for this run. I don't think the artifact is usually anywhere particular. So I think we just got to search the entire map. Yes, well, I appreciate that, Sadar. Thank you everyone for being in. Thank you, Big Wave Dave, for the cheers. I'm having a great weekend already. I think I've got lots of other stuff outside of the streaming, which has been really good. I have an awesome day today, and I've got more stuff to do tomorrow. And yeah, huge thank you to Echo Ridge and all of the guys that came with him, and everyone that cheered and followed. And I gained so many followers and cheers from that. So appreciate all of you so much for supporting that way. Been awesome. I'm already having an awesome weekend. I hope Clay allows players to make their own world custom seeds for the lab. Ooh. So the thing is, Will, I suspect what happened is there was quite a lot of manual manipulation to make this possible. I think the algorithm for the default like seed mechanic, that however it works in the source code, is not in any way set to handle this. So what I think is they manually set it up and kind of they might have even, I'm just speculating here, they might have even had to literally make it by hand, as in gone to every tile, painted it, or something like that. I think that is definitely my guess as to why there is only one and nothing else, and no world seed. So I think that's unlikely in the short term for sure. They may add that later on, but they've probably got more important stuff that they feel they should work on. That's just my guess. Again, I am a Clay ambassador, but I have no particular feed on that, unfortunately. I can't give you some special info. Right. But we found the top of the map. So as I said, the key is if we're going for rockets that are 30, they need to be 35 high. You need to add 2 more for that. So that means a rocket platform would be something like this. It'd be at this height, and they're too high. So you want the top of the rocket platform, 37 tiles up here. But I think that also does not include any meteor shower protection. So we are, let's see, because we now have meteor showers, right? We have copper, ice, and slimy. And I think the copper ones also bring regolith, so they do damage. So you need to be careful of that. If we add bunker doors, do we need to leave room for meteor blasters? Are we going to go with blasters, or are we going to go with... I think we'll just go with... We'll go with door crushers, because I love the door crushers. They're much easier. So if we'll do... I think we need to leave 2 there. I think we then have the row of bunker doors there. And then we have a space, I think... Or you have 2 spaces. Sorry, 2 space, bunker door, 2... I think you have a 2 tile gap to stop getting through, and then we have 2 rows of crushers. So then we need 35 from here. That's where we're going to go 35 from. Yeah, I love measuring all this stuff out. And then that. So our rocket platform will go at this height, and then we'll build above it. I could, yes, we can use them, Mola, we can use them, but we'll... I think I'll just stick with the door crushers, because they do as good a job, to be honest. We'll be fine. We'll only be launching quite a few rockets, but I think we'll be fine. So we'll go with that. We'll go with this. See how it works. I mean, let's try it. It's definitely how I always used to run it. Obviously pre-meteor blasters anyway, but definitely my favourite way of doing it. Okay, if we've got all this built, except that's unreachable, so... Ooh. Hold on. Let's do that. So we'll get this built, and then we can put in the toilets and stuff. So let's get that done. right as we come to downtime. Although we have dupes working across the shift, so that's not a problem. Okay, I like replacing it. Oh, wrong way around. I like replacing these immediately. And one by one, just so we don't lose any toilet capacity. Perfect. And that. Just close it off. Because of course we lost the room bonus here for a sec. Our great halls, our barracks, our laboratory. We'll just replace these. That gets us our latrine bonus back. But we'll get the washroom bonus as well. Cool. Yeah, we got so much food. So much food. And the slime. Yeah, it's the copper ones that I think I'm most worried about. I'm doing this out of gold. Okay, well I'm guessing we're getting gold lavatories. That was not entirely intentional. Maybe we'll change that for the other one, but set it to the left. You don't mind polluted oxygen base. So there's nothing to be worried about polluted oxygen. In itself, it's not a problem. It's slime lung that is the issue, and slime lung does live on polluted oxygen. But I've explained it a couple of times so far in the run. But I've avoided digging slime. I haven't dug any slime except where it's safe. So there's no slime lung in the air. So the fact that there's polluted oxygen, it will give them a slight yucky lungs debuff if they breathe it in. But other than that, there's no issue really. So. And then also just a tip here, because this bridge is connected, it's confusing the pipe flow directions. We'll disconnect that for a second before we just allow these to fill. And then we'll reconnect it and disconnect this side. In fact, I can do that already. I can just disconnect that side and that should be fine. Take that out. Again, just replace these one by one, and that way we make sure we always have enough toilets for people, which is good. Copy that. And just using the copy settings buttons on the / key. I mentioned that earlier, but works for toilets too, works for settings like that. And then we'll get, I think get another achievement like that. We've got some idle tubes. Okay. Well, I think we've run out of stuff for the dupes to do, so we need to get going with some stuff, don't we? I don't like idle dupes. Exosuit forge. We need some metal. So I suppose the thing we haven't done is steel. Steel is something I have not rushed at this point. I do need to. So what I'm thinking is, why don't we use this down here? Use this reservoir. I don't think they're going to be able to dig all of that, but there you go. Let's do that to start. We'll put, yeah, Royal Flush. Yep, I knew I was going to get that achievement. I couldn't remember the name of it, but I knew that one was coming. We'll get started on exosuit. So let's start some metal refining. I don't want to use the rock crusher too much because it deletes quite a lot of metal ore. Cool. Got some polluted water off gassing there as well. No biggie. Right, yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time for these toilets to get in action because of the way the water is sitting in basically the wrong place. So it's going to take a little bit of time just to work out pipe directions and stuff. But this stuff, once we get some in these toilets, it loops around. This will fill up. This will fill up entirely. You just need enough in there suffocating. Ah, I see. That was not the best way to do that. I think you might be dead, hungover Haggis. I don't know how you've managed to do that. But that's a lot. That's a lot to get out of. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'll just get in there in time, will I? Just dead. Just dead. Maybe I could have done if I'd broken this bomb, but well, there you go. Okay. Not the cleanest run there. We'll you'll be buried there for your idiocy. Sorry, hungover Haggis. I say, then we're going to do the... We'll do the resurrection guarantee. What skill was hung over here? What have I just lost as well? Mechatronics engineering, great. Okay, all right. Not that we need it, but can we get another machinery strength? I don't like nyctophobe. I don't like any of these. They're all rubbish. I suppose we'll just take Amari. I really want to take Lyra, but I hate nyctophobic. Just not having it. Okay, hang over, Haggis. We'll reprint you. Alright, it's alright. As per my most used record run, there is no death guarantee, but there is a resurrection guarantee. So if I do accidentally kill you, you'll come back to life. But I try and avoid murdering people. You know, I try. Generally quite successful. Not always. Great, so those are filling up. Oh, we should disable that too. Do a bit of mop. Have we got through here? I don't know why this isn't getting done. Okay. Yeah, so this is the slime meteor shower? Pretty sure. I see slime being chucked about, and algae. So yeah, we're in that season. Yeah, so that's done. Toilets are done. This we can plant a... Oh, do I have a thimble reed seed? I do indeed. Why no? Huh? Why can't I do that? It's only 3 high, isn't it? Weird. Should only be 3 high. I don't know why that's moaning. I'm gonna plant this. It's weird. Huh? Okay, I can. There's a little bug there, apparently. Yeah, there's no overflow water yet, anyway. Okay. So yes, bombs up. What we can do, we've got the thermoregulator. We can work on a nice little food area, I think. Where should we put it? So what we'll do for food area, I think, is literally spitballing new designs here. We'll put unpowered fridges in here, I think. And just cool it, basically, with thermoregulator. We'll use... Oof. I think we really need some steel, I think. Because these... So the problem is, interesting one, radiant gas pipes are made out of metal ores, but radiant liquid pipes... No, these ones are made out of metals. And metals are, like, way better than metal ores at conducting heat. So if you want to make good pipes, you basically need to use steel, because steel counts as both a metal ore and a metal, and has good conductivity. So, right, that was what I was doing over here. Do I even have... Okay, I'm probably researching the wrong stuff. I need to research metal refining. That's the glass forge. That's the one. Let's get the metal refinery. Get that grave built. We'll pop that up. What we'll just do is literally just feed it into the refinery and dump it out. I need some power running this way. If you hold down shift, it'll go in a straight line. Not that I'm bothering to do that. That'd be a good idea to do. Okay, that's over there. Yeah, let's work on steel. What I can probably do at this point as well, see the destination, is our second planetoid, Stinkato. To come up with inventive stuff. We'll send over, who was meant to be going over? It was Joe, I think. Yeah, so Joe's our digger. We need a digger to go over and dig stuff, obviously. So let's send Joe over. We can go looking for artifacts. I'm still looking for artifacts. It's kind of like the main thing I'm trying to get out of this run is artifacts, and we are not doing well on that front. Okay, we can dig through that. And we'll do some more exploring in the minimum way possible. We also have a geyser here, which I have not checked. You can use a trick if you use yellow alert on the geyser, and then you hover over there. We have a hydrogen vent. So that's interesting to know. Again, if we can just weave our way through here without disturbing any slime, that's sweet. And across here, perfect. Great. It doesn't need to be too high, of course. Let's do that. So we're just kind of going across there, across there. We're just exploring, really. More exploring. This, I suppose we just need to keep going down. And then we can also go sideways off of this. Just dig out these areas. I found the somnium synthesizer here too. Again, I've never used that one. I think I'm probably going to be running 2 fewer dupes to really get a lot of benefit out of that. Because I think the more dupes you have, the more useful the somnium synthesizer is. Because to my maths, at least when it was released, I think you needed 8 dupes to run it constantly. And then it gives a colony-wide buff. So the thing is, if I'm planning on running 16 dupes, then I need to give half the colony to give the buff to the other half. So if you're running 80 dupes, then you could give 10% of the colony, which would be better. Right, so we're here. Now, basically what I'm going to need to do on this planetoid is at the very least set up some basic stuff to get kind of, you know, bedroom, toilets, that kind of thing. And we're not gonna go nuts with this because, like I said, this planetoid is not going to get the royal treatment. We're not going to make this a nice base or do lots of cool stuff. We're just going to go basic. We'll do, so we put a door there, and then again, so just basic wash stations, basic sinks, you know, basic toilets. Okay, literally can't click on that enough, so we'll just do that manually. Thank you, game. So we'll make that there. Nice and simple, nothing complicated. Same over here. We'll put a little bedroom in. There we go. Just artifacts found on other planetoids, right? It's a classic. So the terrestrial ones for Veronica, they definitely appear on planetoids, obviously, as you said. I think there are some on every planetoid. So that's what I'm expecting. There should be some on the main planetoid, of course. There should be some here somewhere. I haven't found them yet, but there should be one somewhere. And then yeah, there'll be one here too. So it doesn't matter what map you play because you've got the outer planetoids. There's always 6 outer planetoids, and they will have some on each. Usually 2 each, so maybe it's the outer planetoids I need. So we've got some beaters down here. There's also another geyser there. There's another hydrogen vent. There's 2 geysers. Okay. So research-wise, we have the meta refinery, so that's great. We can pop that in. We're working towards that. Again, let's pop that on there. And then pumping-wise, yeah, we'll literally just pop that there. Seems good. Done. I think each planetoid has 2, if I remember correctly. It's either 1 or 2 on each planetoid, but yeah, they are definitely scattered among the planetoids, particularly the outer ones. I thought there were ones on here too. So we need to explore this planetoid at least and just double check. I'm pretty sure there's some on the inner ones, unless I was going nuts. But we'll look. We will discover the answer together. I thought they were everywhere, but who knows? We'll know at some point. Yeah, okay. It's looking good. I thought Ghost Rider should be digging stuff. Exactly. We'll find out together. But I think that's how it works. So yeah, we have. Yeah, we have loads of food. Loads of food. Okay. Here goes Joe's. So we're just giving some basic infrastructure, but then all we're going to need to do is just explore. So to explore this, find the artifact if there is one, or conclude there is not one if there is not, and then we can build an artifact analyzer and send across our artist to have a look at it. And I can't remember who our artist was, but yeah, this is explorer time basically. While we're exploring over here too. Do we have... Right, bump that. So what we're going to need some steel. And we also... For the exosuits. So Atmos suits, you need 400 for the exosuit forge, which is 4 goes on this. And then we need 300 kilos per suit. Now we're probably going to end up running 10 dupes over here. So I would suggest we need 30 goes on that for suits and 4 for the forge itself. Now that's going to take 3.4 tons of copper ore, and we have 5.6 tons, so we have enough. But we will probably need to dig some more at some point, because copper is a valuable resource. There's loads of it around the starting biome, so it's not a problem. Cool, building down here. And then also to make steel, of course, we need some iron, so we can dump... how much steel do we need? So we're only making pipes at this point, we're not making aquatuners. So an aquatuner, you need 1200 kilograms of steel, so that would be 12 goes on here. But we don't need an aquatuner yet. Do we need an aquatuner anytime soon? Probably not. It depends how's the heat of the base going. So the spawn will heat the base up quite badly. So maybe we play this safe and put we'll just put 13 of these in. So here we go. We'll just make some iron. Oh no, did I just toggle? Didn't mean to toggle. And this should be fine. And then the other ingredients, of course, other than iron into steel, we'll need a kiln. Then we could just dump this anywhere. That's not a huge problem. For the refined carbon, and the last thing we need is lime, which comes from eggshells or from fossils. So we'll put that on here. Again, I just like to do this as forever. We have no eggshells, so that is a bit of a bummer. We may need to dig some fossil up, which is found in large amounts in the oil biome. So let's start making some suits first before we crack our way in here. But then once we do, we'll get loads of fossil, we'll get loads of lime, and we can make loads of steel. We only need a tiny amount of steel. Juice-wise, I think we can go to 10. I have no issues with 10. Unfortunately, yeah, we lost our machine guy, but that's pretty good. Rock fan too. I've seen that trait before, so we'll take a Nicola. And the next subscriber to come in is RFP1. It was keen I got his name right, but welcome in RFP1. And let's do scheduling now because we've got more dupes. I want 4 per schedule. So again, like I did last time, I'm just going to offset this by 4, and then make this a +8. We've only got 3. Okay, we'll go to 3 downtime slots as well, because at this point the travel time's starting a bit longer. We'll just rename this 2 so we can know what we're doing. Then we'll just divide this up. So as long as we've got 4 dupes on every, or maximum 4 dupes on every schedule, then that means the toilets won't get overcrowded, which is great. And of course we have a skill point for RFP coming straight in. We'll go for the engineering, I think. It's probably the right dupe for that. Critter ranching for Dominator. Haggis. So our new Haggis doesn't have a lot of loves. Andy is cooking. I guess carrying as well is going to help. Carrying helps everyone. Carrying is the best. Is the best one. I haven't done hats either. I usually do hats later on. That's great. Crash plan research completed. Right, so we've got the So the basic rocketry, we have the materials research study. We will need to get... sorry, we have the data analysis research, not the materials. So we need to do the research, that one, the materials one, and get some radiation stuff going so we can get that research started. Insufficient resources or water, that is fine. We'll pop that under there. Cloud Curl Care. Ooh, hello, hello. That's a cute emote. I need to put this somewhere where there is actually water, which is probably over here, I think. It's great to have so many of you in. I really appreciate everyone that came over with Echo and is still here. Thank you for sticking with me, and also thank you to all my lovely regular people that have been here for so long. And if you are in neither of those categories, if you're not my regular and you didn't come with Echo but you still popped in, thank you all the same. It's definitely going to be my most populated stream ever by a long way. Thank you, Caesar, mate, for plugging the Discord. Joe is making a mess. Why not? We do the dirt, please. Do the dirt, Joe. How igneous rock already? Also, thank you for the follow, Kanord. Yes. So many follows earlier. Nuts. Okay, so yeah, the main thing on this planetoid, let's say, is just so we can live off nutrient bars for like 14 cycles if we just got one dupe. But the key really is just exploring. You just need to find whether there's an artifact here or not, which hopefully there is. And if there is, we can send our artist. If not, we will not send our artist. It'd be a bit of a bummer if there is not one. So fingers crossed. We'll hold on for that. Look at that. Look at all that we've just discovered, but no artifact. Ooh. And this planetoid is smaller too. You can already see kind of the width of it there to there. We're actually very near the end already. Is pretty good. Of course, this does give us pips as well, so we could do pip planting a little bit. I'm not going to do massive pip farms before any of my normal viewers get worried that I start making giant pip farms. If you do want to see that, I mean, say VODs are on YouTube in their entirety, but on the Motius record run, I made a 840 plant lettuce farm on the second planetoid. So that was pretty nuts, and took ages, absolutely ages. So we will not be doing that again on this run. You do not have to worry. But you might do a little bit of pit planting if you want to, say, get a nature reserve down the middle. So what you can do is make this nice ladder room into a nature reserve. So what we can also do is add some fire poles in. We should definitely be doing that. So they do use a lot of metal ore, so be not careful. Don't think we can get that built. Perfect. We've got a powered fridge here currently. Now we can stick a few orders of refined carbon on there. We've got the copper and iron going, so we should have now enough for the exosuit forge. Perfect. So I think we can put... Is it industrial machinery? It is industrial machinery, so we can't put it in there. Let's not do that. Where should we put it? Where should we put it? Here? Here? Let's put it here. I think I over-allocated the amount of ones I need as well. Put showers in a nature reserve. True, Milo, but I tend to avoid the showers because I always remember the Francis John video where he went through the maths on how much benefit it gives versus how much time it takes. And yeah, it was a pretty compelling argument for they're just not worth it, the showers, so I never build showers. Cool, we can come that way. We're just coming our way that way. We don't need to worry about this, so we just come straight down. The bottom of this planetoid will be radioactive, and it will be cold. It'll be very cold down here where the beetles are living. So we don't need to... I don't think we need to investigate that area. That's not that important. Because it's basically... There's not going to be an artifact down there. I'm fairly sure. Fairly sure. Okay, there may not be one on this whole planetoid, but if there is, we'll find it. See if you get a smelly debuff. Yeah, that'll be... I think that'd be a compelling reason to use it. Yeah, it sounds like a good idea, Will. So, agree with you on that. Okay. So yeah, we got the Exosuit Forge building. We have only 8 units of reed fiber, which is not a whole lot. What we can do, we can increase that number by manually farming some. Because I mean, ultimately, what we want to do is put all of the dupes into suits. I've also forgot I need more copper to build like the checkpoints and stuff. I was wondering if we could substitute some lead in there, but probably not yet. Okay, so we've hit the right edge of this planetoid. I do not see any artifacts. If you guys see any, please shout out. Playing Spot the Artifact. You guys always tend to have keen eyes and point out stuff that I sometimes miss. We do not have the super duper hard digging over here, but that's fine. We can work our way around that. Right, that's the edge of the planetoid anyway, so it's not here. I better not get screwed because this skewed planetoid doesn't have the right number of artifacts. That would be a huge facepalm. Oh dear, if it doesn't actually have it. Oh dear, can you imagine? I'm gonna go crazy if that happens. We'll start a whole new game and do it again. But anyway, it's really fingers crossed it doesn't come to that. But it's fine. I mean, I think overall we're moving quite quickly, so I'm very happy with the progress. I see. Yeah, we're using a lot of copper for the metal refinery, and the copper ore for the poles too. What I think we probably need to do is do some strip mining. Basically, if anyone isn't familiar with strip mining, it just means digging out bigger areas of the map. So we'll just dig it out. It's just a minimal, and we can just dig all of this copper out. My blunder. Hello, bonsoir to you. Are you French, or are you just you're just going with a bonsoir? Followed up with a friendly American howdy. That is a mix of languages. Although you might get that in, like, I don't know, Louisiana or something like that. There's the French parts of America. That seems like a fit. So yeah, we're coming down there. Again, I'm not expecting to find anything along the bottom because this will all just be very cold, very frozen beta area. And probably no artifacts. There might be some in here, maybe. We'll find out. Other than that, we've got a black band here and a black band there. Other than that, we've kind of found everything. So this is all with Joe to get digging. Ah, you are Québécois. You're bienvenue. French and English. I just find it, yeah. I remember with the Québécois people. It's they speak perfect French and then they flip into English into an American accent, and it's so strange. I do know a bit of French, so I can get away with some French, but having learned that here in the UK and the French people, François, their English accent is French, whereas the Québécois English accent is American. It's very strange. I find it very strange, but kind of cool at the same time. The best of both worlds. Oh, and also, don't spoil the Formula 1 results. I think quali is probably just finishing now. I don't shout if anyone watches Formula 1, but I think I'm missing the Formula 1 to stream. Fingers crossed I'm going to turn that on afterwards and don't get spoiled in the meantime. Which is, of course, in Montreal this week, so great track. Do love the Circuit du Villeneuve. We're watching that. We'll probably head off and watch that as soon as I finish streaming. There you go. Bit of an insight there. So, yeah, we're going to finish the advanced research on. Okay, yeah. I didn't want to say that, Mola, but I have heard that too. They speak Kevin Wild French. They speak their own French. But, you know, it's better than my French. I'm guessing you're making a joke, Mind Builder, and not saying you follow Formula E, because Formula E is... I also follow that, and it's kind of interesting. Yeah, a bit different to Formula 1, but still cool. I've never heard it called E1 though, so I assume that's a joke. So yeah, we'll dig our way through here. Again, if there's any more reed fibre, that wouldn't hurt because we will use quite a lot in making suits. If we don't find any, then we may have to just farm a load ourselves, basically. So our toilet system is now full, which is great. And see, it's working as intended, so the overflow just goes to the thimble reed. I think in terms of numbers, you need... I think it was 27 dupes per thimble reed, if I got that number right. As in, just in excess water, you need a lot of them. Okay, we're at 10, and I don't think we need to rush this and grab more. So we'll just add more stress. So, we'll take the care package, why not? There we go. Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting series. Alright, great. So we've got the refined carbon. So the only thing we're missing for the steel is the fossil. But to get the fossil, we have to go in here, and here is very hot. Unless we maybe broke through this here. We could be a bit cheeky and break through here. I think that's probably a good idea. I just hope we don't lose these sleet wheat by breaking in here. If I say put a ladder over here, we could then quite happily dig us some fossil, and that'll be, I mean, that's a relatively small amount of fossil, but that'll be probably enough to make us a good chunk of steel. I just want a little bit of steel because we can set up a thermoregulator here and sort this out. Right, what I do is I think I come in from this side because I'm a bit fed up with this looking rubbish. So we'll do that. So generally I want to block this right side off and make all the atmosphere access from the left, and then that way they can only come out of one side, and then they don't sneak out without atmo suits, which sucks when they do. So the main thing we need to get on is materials research. In the meantime, we can just do some other stuff. We'll get useful things. Most of the research tree is useful. That's a good thing about Oni. About 75-80% of the research tree is useful. There's some of the decor stuff, some of the automation that's kind of less useful, but on the whole, most of it is useful for something, particularly the earlier side of it, for sure. So it never hurts to do that. I mean, I really should have just S-dug this rather than laddered it, to be honest. Just being a bit lazy. I hope this doesn't slow us down too much. So, yeah, like I said, I don't think we need to come down this far, even, to be honest. You know, we can go sideways from here and here. Great. That's going to drop mud, so just beware digging underneath stuff that's going to fall, because then you'll have to dig your way through that as well, which is no fun. We can't get through that. Can they get up there? Probably if we don't dig that. I think that's all passable. Perfect. I can do there. Okay, I'm just trying to minimise the amount of building we need to do. Building is slow and bad. We shouldn't even need to do that. I think we can get to there. We can find everything. So again, and at this point, with this planetoid, I really don't care about mixing water or anything. We'll make a complete mess and say screw it. Again, I don't think I can get through the obsidian, so here's a couple of geysers just scattered about. That should give us the whole bottom area, which is great. Statues aren't useful. So they are, but not all of them, right? Like, I mean, like, yeah, the canvas is saying these are kind of slightly better. These ones not necessarily useful. Pixel pack, you know, the monument, you really need that. The multiplexing you don't need. So, yeah, there's a handful of them. The decontamination shower, that's a complete waste of time as well. I'm getting rather a lot of stress on this planetoid. Can I do the Great Hall, do the Great Hall. We'll just, let's get a Great Hall going and then we can, yeah, bump the morale up and probably stop Joe having a meltdown, which would be advisable. Let's try and get that done, because I'd like to go that way. Yeah, we can start getting rockets going. But what I will do, oh, good point, Veronica. Thank you for catching up. It needs to be at least 32, doesn't it? So that is, you're absolutely right. That is not big enough. But what we can do is, let's put a second layer up here. I think. There you go. That'll do it. Okay, we may have to yellow alerts. I can't remember. Does Joe have weird priorities? Joe, where are you? Okay, he has prioritised digging, which is bad. So Ghost Rider should be prioritised digging. That probably explains why nothing was getting done on that planetoid. I thought they were kind of lacking digging, and I had a dedicated digger. We must have lost him when Joe went over here. Okay. I suppose I could also use this space. I didn't really need to do that. There should be enough space with the... If I leave that gap open, it should be fine. I'm thinking. Is that enough? Great Hall. Perfect. How's that Great Hall already? That's a bit of a mystery. Oh, because there's a mallow up here. Great. Okay, don't even need to plant that. But anyway, there we go. Bonus. Why not? We can just turn it off. We'll do it anyway. Cool. Anyway, that's going to sort the morale out for Joe, I think. So that's great. That helps out. He can get back on with his little job. Perfect. Yeah, thank you guys. You spotted that before me, I think. Okay. Yeah, so there's lots of digging to do. Digging seems to be the main one. Again, so all of our carbon dioxide is just in this giant pit. I've not dealt with that at all. It's just down there. So fossil fuels, heat stroke. Heat stroke? This is hot over here. Okay. They're not getting scalded, but they're getting heat stroked. I wonder if you just plug this up. Little hole there. Get rid of that. We'll just stop this leaking. We can use the salt water at some point, maybe. Question mark. Need to be of use. Hopefully got a load more copper now as well. And copper ore, yeah, we've got loads of copper ore and copper, great. Yeah, so what we should probably do, we should literally come all the way up here because we're going to need a lot of space access, so building access is a good way to do it. So we're using all of our power that we have available. Coal numbers are great, so we can clear that. We should also sort this out, add some extra stuff. Of course, as we go along, we discover more ingredients and more materials that we can use. Kind of looking for useful stuff. Sand, I'll put on there. Sand's always a useful one. Something you really don't want to run out of. We're not too worried about those or that. We can put iron for sure. Why not? Yeah, okay. Kind of want steel and atmo suits and that kind of thing on there. So we've got atmo suit copper. And I basically just want to chuck 10 of these on is my goal. So we can just get everyone in a suit and happy. We may need to generate a load more of these because we're also going to need to, as well as that, we'll need to build suit docks, which I'll build out of copper, wherever there's space. Checkpoints, sorry, and then 4 docks. This is my plan. Ooh. So we'll just leave the checkpoint off for now. We'll also add some airflow in there. We can tile the rest of that up. So this will be our What's that? Okay, something just pinged. Not good. You fill those up, fill those in, and we'll have four exits. So 4 times 4, which is 16. And then that'll be fine. That's all we're going to need. Starving. Okay, maybe we should eat then. That'd be a good idea. So we'll do that, and again, I've got perfect. We can lock these, but we kind of don't need to. We've got our oxygen coming out all the way to the top, which we'll lose when we go. I haven't liquid locked that or anything actually. I haven't used a single liquid lock on this run so far, but I just haven't needed to. So okay. Let's hope Joe sorts his morale out, but he's under quite a lot of things. We'll see. We may have to massage table him, but then we don't have any electricity for that, so yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one. So yeah, like I say, I certainly don't see any artifacts down here, and I'm not expecting any, but I thought we should check. And then I suppose our last remaining place to check is in this band up here. So we probably need to work our way up here. Oh, that's obsidian. People keep suffocating. I don't know why. Because they're digging through far off places without any oxygen supply, I'm guessing. Guessing they're going into these tunnels and stuff. Maybe down here. There's not a lot of oxygen down here. Okay, let's can that, because without suits this is a little bit risky. You may be right, Ghost Rider. I am just double checking. Are there any on the main planetoid either? Because I am also not sure about that. We may just have to go out to the other areas. But, oh well. If there aren't any, then we've wasted a little bit of time doing this, but no biggie. And on here, yeah, we've also wasted time doing that, but we'll have explored everything. And exploring is good. Exploring is always a good thing to do, so I'd highly recommend it. Yeah, okay. Veronica says possible, so it's probably also going to depend on the world seed and all the rest of it, but yeah. Okay, we've got lime to steel. We've got iron to steel. So I'm going to put it down as 14. Should be fine. Yeah. Okay, alright, so you know where it is, I just haven't found it yet. Okay, well at least that's good. That means I'm not searching in vain, which I'm happy for. There's another frozen biome up here, which is cool. Literally, it's a terrible pun, sorry. Did not mean to do that. Yeah, these are weird suffocating ones. I don't know where they're doing it. I think it's over here. I don't know why is it because they can't get that out. Let's turn that off. Cool. So we've got a load of building and the other thing we will need to do for these is so for gas pipes wise, what we probably want to do is move this up here, I would suggest. I think that 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's a better place for it, because then we can split the gas pipes better. Again, I'm not interested in dupes, we'll take whatever the rest is. Because basically what we can do is pull those up there like that, and if I'm being very lazy, I can pull these down here like this. And then that also means, yeah, I can pull this up here like that, and I can grab those ones like that. Because that kind of makes it easy to split in half. So straightforward. Okay, alright, got about 10 minutes left on this episode, and then we'll end episode 3, but we've made a lot of progress already right from the start on cycle 40. Haven't found any artifacts yet, but we're building our way there, so... okay, right, I've put that right through a vein of obsidian I can't dig. This is not good. And come come across here, I think. Sensible, we can come up. Safe digging through abyssalite. Yeah, I'm not sure actually. So obviously the base map is exactly the same. I assume these outer planetoids are the same as well. Pretty sure that works the same well. Thank you, Hepard, for the emo. Yeah, so I assume these are the same on every run as well, because the seed dictates everything, right? So you guys can probably confirm that if you recognise it. I assume that's the case. Okay, we've got lots of oxygen on the left. Why? Right, that's just a placeholder. Cool, lots of work is ongoing. Get in there. Yeah, man, we're almost there. We just need to close this band out. AETN there, anti-entropy thermal nullifier. Don't need that. Ooh, okay, advanced combustion. Okay, we still need some more research. Glass forge? Do we need glass? I need 3 people. Well, it's like Shepherd without an S. I mean, it's straightforward to me. Maybe they misread it. Yeah, so we'll deconstruct that. Let's bump priority on that. Get that exosuit forge going. Food is stable. Temperature is slowly rising. Oh, I see. Yeah, okay. I mean, I can see that. If you didn't see the word shepherd in your name, I could see how otherwise I would read it like that. But yeah, just depends what you see first. So yeah, I think the tubes are going. Got them loads of stuff to do, as always. This is how we play. Hit cycle 41. We got another neural vaccinator. We didn't. I don't know why the digging is so slow. I thought. Who did I? I thought. Wasn't it Ghost Rider? I thought I made you dig stuff. You're not doing the best job digging, Ghost Rider. Where are you? I won't find you if I click on you. Disappearing on me. Badger. You sleep? No. Yeah, there you are. You should be digging everything, unless you would... you're probably strip mining this, which is why. That's probably why. Yeah, okay, dig. Good. High priority dig. That's what we need. Is stress still going up? Yeah, I think poor Joe over here is having a pretty rough time with the environment. Even now, I did give him the Great Hall. Quite enough, but it has stabilised him anyway, so at least it's not going up. Joe was one of my originals, wasn't he? I think. So he should be. If he's an ugly Cryot, we're fine. We're fine. Yeah, it's not a bad reaction tool. I assume there's a cool steam vent up here. This looks like a cool steam vent spawn. Not 100% sure. But yeah, he definitely has made quick work at exploring this little planetoid, which is great. I think the conclusion may well be that there are no outer artifacts here, but there you go. Okay. Yeah. So I think it's really with Ghost Rider's key here to get through. Oh, there's another cold biome over here, which means even more sleetweed. I think we are probably entirely maxed out on sleetweed, and we really don't need any more. But there you go. We could have some more if we wanted. I mean, why not? You know, dig our way over this way. Yeah, another again AETN there. Oh, scroll down a tiny bit. Ah ha ha ha! Good catch. Thank you, Veronica. Yes, that is the one we want. Right. Sink ×1. Good. Awesome. Filing cabinet. That's just a filing cabinet. Perfect. Let's go dig that up. Deconstruct that. Awesome. And we already have... Do we have the artifact sweeper? I have no idea. The artifact station. I'm guessing not. We might need to research that. It's going to be quite key to this run, really. There's the clothing refashionator. Where is the... I thought it would have been somewhere in the art pieces, because it's... Right, we'll use the search function for its intended purpose. Artifact analysis station. It's over here, interestingly, in the life support one, okay? Which means we need applied sciences research, which means we need to do some applied science research, of course. Now, that means we need to start working on some of the radiation stuff. We can probably... Can we slot it over here? Do we have enough space? Or should we go down here? There's also some slime, but if we do slime lung and we do... This is also in a carbon dioxide area, which is not great. Not great. Where should we put the material science? Over here? Why don't we put it over here? Nice and out the way, I think. Okay. Although generally, you can't flip this around. Generally, you want to put it on the left side because you want to fire the rad bolts from the left. Firing it from the right is a bit sketchy. So why don't we pop it over here? And then we can put our Weezeworts in. Again, I don't want to flood this, and this is going to squeeze this up a bit already. So I'm guessing we're going to have to go one here, 1, 2, 1. So I believe this is the optimal configuration for that, if I remember correctly. And then we stick a little rad bolt generator in this tile, and then we will reflect it on this tile. That all seems good. And then we're going to need to run a lot of power up here. What we probably want to do is pop a heavy watt conductive plate in there. We can just pull a small wire up there. Why not use me? Ah, yes. Is that because... Yeah, because the... you can get some nuclear waste sitting in there, so good point. Oh, you just mean in terms of not flooding it. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. We can squeeze that. That's not going to overflow. But yeah, for the nuclear waste and for... Yeah, we'll probably just do that anyway. Seems sensible. Let me grab a conduction plate. Overwatch joint plate. Power transformer. There. And then we can run this up to there and to there. Perfect. Cool. And we'll do our applied sciences up here. We won't bother with a laboratory or anything. That's fine. We'll have our Atmo suits docks built. We can build some more. We don't have any suits, do we? Maybe we just bump priority on this. We probably don't have enough copper, but there you go. We'll do 10 suits. Think we need more copper? Probably need more copper. What is this saying? I can't do any steel yet because it doesn't have any lime. We haven't dug any lime up yet, any fossil filter lime. So get in there, get there. Okay, poor old Joe over here. So we've done the right side. I don't see anything there. I'm getting very close to concluding there are no artifacts over here, but we will just be 100% sure before we write it off. Across there, great. Okay, right. As we come to the end of cycle 42, which is going to downtime, some research. Go to that. What research do we need? Again, we don't have the material science research yet, but we can do that soon. Yeah, we should start wrapping up because this is now the end of the 3rd episode and the end of the stream. A huge thank you to you guys for being with me, especially so many of you today. Yeah, in terms of summarising what we've done, I mean, we've gone from nothing to this, so that kind of tells a story in itself. Now, obviously, remembering the goal of the run is to try and get all the artifacts that we need for Cosmic Archaeologist, and we do it on the Skewed planetoid, which is an interesting map for sure. What we've done, we've built a small little base, of course. We've sorted kind of oxygen and food. We haven't got any cooling in, but we've got our SPOM going. We've got loads of sleek wheat being pulled out from the frozen biome, so that's producing lots of nice frost buns. And we've also got extra food, probably just rotting away. We'll do some infinite food storage down here next time. Again, we're just going to grab some steel for some radiant gas pipes. Use a little thermoregulator hydrogen system to build that up. We've got infinite bathroom, we've got enough bedrooms, got food, as said, the power going, obviously some metal refining, so copper, iron, and we're going to work on some steel. We just need to go into the oil biome on the left side, which is very weird, to grab some fossil for the lime. We have breached space, so we grab the print. Which print do we want? 2 ICs are always good, don't need more dupes. 10 dupes. We found the top of the map, so we need to plan out a rocket area. So we'll kind of carve this bit out once we've got some atmo suits and make this our rocket launch area, protect for meteors. We'll do some space stuff. Next time we need a lot of steel for that actually, so that's going to be important. And we've just about found the first artifact there. I don't know if there's another one on this planetoid or not. But we need to do some materials research to get the analyzer. So that's useful. On the second planetoid, we've explored it to try and find an artifact, not found one yet, and probably looking like there isn't one. But if there isn't, then at least we know, we've concluded that, and we'll just bring Joe back and call that a day. But good to get to the bottom of that either way. But yeah, that's it. We've come a long way. We're already, I think, making great progress towards getting the artifacts, because we've got a lot of rocket stuff to come. That's kind of going to be one of the key bits for this run. So yeah, with that, I've reached the end of the stream, reached the end of the episode. Thank you so much for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.